Okay, guys, I have some big news. Guess who just won not one, but two NAACP Image Awards? The Readout won for Best News and Information Series. Oh my God, big ups. So proud of the Readout team. Oh my God, we worked so hard on the show. So thank you to everybody who's been so supportive of the show, all the readers who watch it, everybody. Thank you. I'm so excited for the Readout team. But guess what else? Bookie Baker and Murley won in the biography category. Oh my goodness. I am so proud and so excited about this award. This was such a labor of love. Like, this was written really for Miss Myrlie Evers Williams, and in, just dedication to Medgar Evers, who's made such a huge contribution to civil rights history, as did Miss Myrlie.
A few moments later.
MSNBC has canceled Joy Reid's 7 o'clock show, The Readout, as part of a major overhaul by the network's new regime. Reid, an unabashed liberal, mainstay, in fact, you could argue, and an emphatic Trump critic, will be replaced by a new show hosted by former Obama staffer and Bernie Sanders backer Simone Sanders Townsend, also former RNC chair Michael Steele, and Alicia Menendez, the daughter of disgraced New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez.
What's up, y'all? Gerald here, creator of Gospel Chops and your host for this YouTube channel, back with another video. Now, y'all, this is breaking news just coming to us this morning. And y'all who are on the East Coast, I'm out here on the left coast, the best coast, and sometimes we get it a little later than y'all just because of the time difference. But y'all, breaking news from the New York Post. Says MSNBC cancels Joy Reid's lefty show as network makes major shakeup. Y'all, we have put up with this woman. We have tolerated this woman who has leaned more to the left over time. She was so snuggled and happy under the Joe Biden administration, and she pivoted on a dime and said, okay, Joe Biden ain't in the game no more. I'm going to throw all of my support behind Kamala Harris, which showed those of us who are thinking people, reasonable people, those of us who have common sense like you and I, we saw her pivot and said, hey, you're not committed to a candidate. You're not committed to a policy. You're committed to a party. You're committed to a plantation that we trying to escape from, quite frankly. We trying to get more people up out of there. Like Harriet Tubman, we trying to free them folk. However, as she continued on her program on MSNBC, The Readout, she didn't want to recognize the winds of political change that were blowing. She leaned in to her policy points, to her advocacy for the Democrat Party, to all those left-wing issues, talking to the blackity blacks who she thought would follow her like the Pied Piper. No, we saw the political winds changing. We saw the climate changing in politics, and she didn't want to recognize it. She leaned in. She doubled down on those Democrat talking points. And here we find her, y'all, just 1 month into the Donald Trump presidency. And NBC is recognizing that Donald Trump has sued ABC. He has sued CBS. He has a pending lawsuit with CNN. He is going ham on all these major networks that were funded. We just finding out now that they were funded by USAID, many of them, to push political narratives that were antithetical to our American beliefs. Not only that, but antithetical to Donald Trump and his policy positions. No, they used our tax dollars to attack our ideals. Do y'all understand how offensive that is? And here we are with the blackity black, whose parents are from Congo and Guyana, an immigrant to this country herself, who went to Harvard, got a Harvard degree, so she's supposed to be smarter than everybody else. Well, she don't seem too smart in this moment because we all saw this coming. We say, hey, if you don't change your narrative, if you don't get in line with what's going on, if you don't change your policy positions to line up with what America is thinking right now, y'all, we got a populist president. He won the popular vote. What you are seeing right now in politics is what America voted for. And people like Joy Reid hate it to her core, y'all. Her Trump derangement syndrome runs so deep that she could not divorce herself from that ideology. And now she finds herself jobless.
They can drive out the brown people and the black and Asian people, or just sink them into the same apartheid they've created in Texas. And they will control enough electoral votes if they can.
They want white supremacy by ventriloquist effect. There is a black mouth moving, but a white idea through the running on the runway of the tongue of a figure who justifies and legitimates the white supremacist practices.
Your thoughts, Byron Donalds, who walked out after Dixie was played in New York and has no shame there. They say he's going to be the governor of Florida now.
Yeah, every community has what I call their chickens for Colonel Sanders. Muslims had their halal chickens. The black community has their chickens. Byron Donalds is a grown-ass black man who referred to Donald Trump as his daddy. And what I want to tell the Byron Donalds, and every community's got a Donald. I got a Kash Patel. We got a Nimrata, we got a Haley. We all got them, all right? What I want to say is this. They'll never love you. They'll never love you. No matter what you do, they'll never love you. You can never wipe out that brown or black skin.
But, I feel like the important sort of data point, and Steve talks about it a lot. He's going to probably talk about it a little more tonight, is that these are white Christians. That this is a state that is overrepresented by white Christians that are going to participate in these caucuses, especially tonight. Earlier today, reached out to Robbie Jones from the Public Religion Research Institute, knowing that we were going to talk about Iowa. And this is a hyper evangelical white state. And he said the following to me: Iowa is about 61% white Christian. The country as a whole is approximately 41% white Christian. And in Iowa, we're talking about evangelical white Christians. And he said the following. Because I asked him, what do they get out of supporting Donald Trump? Because he keeps losing, he keeps delivering losses and losses and losses. And he said the following: they see themselves as the rightful inheritors of this country, and Trump has promised to give it back to them. All the things that we think about electability, about, what are people gaming out, or none of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not a white conservative Christian is a fraudulent American, is a less real American. Then you don't care about electability. You care about what God has given. But Republican voters don't vote that way. They don't vote based on economics or based on the benefits they're getting economically from the president. They're increasingly, from the Tea Party on, they're voting on race. They're voting on this idea of an invasion of brown people over the border. The idea that they can't get whatever job they want. A black person got it, therefore drive all the blacks out of the colleges, get rid of DEI. That is what they're voting on. They're just voting specifically on racial animus at this stage. It isn't about economics. No. Returning white Christian men, but also white men and white adjacent men, black men, brown men who are like white adjacent in terms of trying to also be in that dominant position in society. And then you have women who are willing to go along with that, right? There are a certain number of women who are also willing, the trad wife sort of thing. And so what you've seen on this. No, absolutely. I'm sure the doctors are exhausted. And, Jason, there is a term called necropolitics, which is essentially the politics of who gets to live and who gets to die. And these states, what they have in common is that they have structures which say that black and brown lives matter less. And so all that matters is the black and brown people get their behinds into the factory and make me my steaks, make me my stuff, get there and do my nails, work, get back to work now and do the things that I, the comfortable, affluent person, need. Isn't that what we're seeing? I mean, that's what it feels like to me. Necropolitics in states like Texas. Oh, yeah.
Have you watched MSNBC lately? Likely you haven't. Like the Tootsies, you're not the target audience, but you should tune in sometime. It's remarkable. Given that opposing racism is America's national religion, it may surprise you to learn that open race hate forms much of the substance of that channel's programming. And when we say race hate, we're not referring to the subtle coded variety. You want border security? You're giving your kids piano lessons? You like Shakespeare? You believe in the SAT? You must be a racist. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the kind of race hate you cannot mistake for anything else, the kind where people just come out and announce, I hate this race of people, and here's why I do. It's hard to believe that anything like that is happening right now on American television, but it is, out in the open. And the most amazing and the most creepy part of all is that no one is saying anything about it. It's all but ignored. And honestly, we had no idea it was going on either until we started getting texts from people. Are you watching this? Can you believe this? So we tuned in. Apparently on the left, what you're about to see is considered completely normal, even good. And that should worry you deeply. You don't want to live in Rwanda. But on MSNBC, they're already there. Now, you probably knew about Joy Reid, the race lady who's been fixated on race hate for years now. But MSNBC has a new host, someone called Tiffany Cross, who hosts a show called The Cross Connection. Here's a selection.
Many of us have seen the dangers when powerful white people decide they want something, they annex it. And they've never had a problem replacing the people who stand in their way.
We see American white people are going crazy. They're resorting to violence.
This is literally what conservative white folks do when they don't get their way. They turn violent.
White people deputizing themselves in some position of authority to have jurisdiction over their life when they need to mind their blanking business.
I don't think it's our responsibility to be tasked with destroying and dismantling the racial oppression that's against us. That's just saying we're more at fault than the white people who constructed this system and the white people who continue to practice institutional racism.
A majority of white people do not support policies that would unpack and unroll and reform this system of justice. This is what they want. Matt Gaetz is giving the white folks what they want.
White replacement can strangle culture. So yes, we should all be concerned about white replacement. It is, after all, a very threat to our survival here. Roland made a really legitimate point here. I will say, you know, a lot of black men sometimes feel like they're ignored or they're put down, particularly sometimes even by black women in the media. So this is not that. But I do hear Roland's point that felt ignored. But you feel ignored and then you go over to the other side. The oppressed feel oppressed. So then you go and try to align with the oppressor. So I'm not putting black men down, but sometimes it's like, well, some of you Kevin Samuels following Tariq Nasheed quoting people, please look at the truth and see what's happening and get in line with some of the black women. Is majority, like he said, vote Democrat, but that margin of people who can be plucked away from your people and go advance policies that harm your people, I just don't understand that. Okay, so normally you guys know I use this time to address something or someone relevant who has warranted some sort of ire from the community. However, this week I'm taking a slightly different approach and addressing someone completely irrelevant. I'm speaking, of course, about Megyn Kelly. The 50-year-old bully is trying to bulldoze her way back into relevance that only comes to women like her for being a provocateur, not for offering any type of intellectual input. Nevertheless, here we are. Why? Because the blackface connoisseur who had to apologize for ridiculously asking why it was racist for white people to wear blackface for Halloween is now going after someone who's less than half her age but has twice her intelligence. But when it comes to us, sisters, stop punching above your weight. You keep asking for this smoke that you really don't want. You want to act like a high school mean girl, and you'll get treated that way. Sit down, be humble, while our left stroke keeps going viral. Let the grown women speak. You're not invited to this table. You don't have the range.
All right, y'all, let's get into this story from the New York Post. In case you don't follow the New York Post, I will cover it here for your enlightenment. Here's a pro tip for the ladies. If you find a man that you're unsure about, you want to know what his intellectual competence is, make sure you have him read out loud before you get serious with him. I don't care if you have him read a menu at a restaurant. Just make sure you have him go through some type of step where you hear him read out loud. It's going to tell you a lot about his personality. Y'all, let's get into this story. It says MSNBC cancels Joy Reid's lefty show as network makes major shakeup. Okay. Written by Anthony Blair. Just came out this morning, y'all. I'm on the West Coast, so I'm behind the times. You may have heard of this story already, but you ain't heard my take on it, so let's get to it. MSNBC liberal mainstay Joy Reid's show has been canceled as part of a major overhaul by the network's new president, Rebecca Cutler, according to a report. The 7 p.m. program, hosted by ardent Trump critic, yes, Reid 56, will be replaced by a new panel show featuring host Alicia Menendez, Michael Steele, and Simone Sanders Townsend. The New York Times reported, citing insiders. Oh, they got some inside plugs, people leaking this information, y'all. It's coming out from secret sources. People are leaking this saying, hey, we on the inside. Here's what's going on with this network. There's a shakeup occurring. Now, if you know about this chick, Menendez, let me put her picture up here so you can see it. Her daddy going to prison, and her mama's probably going to prison too. Senator Menendez was just convicted of shenanigans. And here his daughter is aligned, set up to host a show on MSNBC. Ain't that something? This dude got gold bars in his closet. The feds came into his house and raided that situation. They found all kind of stuff. A whole drop Mercedes Benz, some gold bars, some money stashed away. They found all kind of stuff. This man is a criminal. And look, he's been prosecuted before. But he's been so slick under previous administrations that he was able to dodge those charges. He was able to evade that conviction. But now he's been convicted and he's going to prison. But here his daughter is on an MSNBC show, replacing the readout. Y'all got rid of the blackity black and got the criminal's daughter in here on a new show. Story continues. The final episode of Reed's show, The Readout, will air sometime this week, ending a mainstay of MSNBC's lineup for the past 5 years, according to the Times. MSNBC declined to comment. I bet you did. I bet you ain't got much to say at all. Because you don't want to slip up and have Joy Reid file a lawsuit against you on those blackity black concepts saying, hey, I know I was DEI. I know I supported DEI, but you fired me because of anti-DEI policies. I want $10 million in this lawsuit. Y'all know she would file it. You know she would. Story continues. It marks the first large-scale shakeup by MSNBC's new president, Cutler, since she took over the liberal network earlier this month, as it looks to double down on its lefty agenda during the second Trump administration. I don't know if that's a double down. Seems like they're retreating from that super left-wing policy position that they had under Joy Reid. Story continues. Reid, one of the most prominent Trump bashers in the mainstream media, has been a long-serving anchor at the network, hosting the weekend talk show AM Joy since 2016, before being named anchor of the 7 p.m. slot in 2020. Y'all, she's been there a while. She's been rocking out. Probably made a lot of money. She'll be all right. She's going to do good. She'll be okay. Says here, she has made a series of infamous rants in recent months, including telling Trump supporters to make your own dinner at Thanksgiving. Say they should suffer the consequences of your votes. Yeah, it looks like you are suffering the consequences of their votes, Joy Reid. Cutler is making other major changes at MSNBC as she looks to change the fortunes of the network, where ratings have consistently trailed behind Fox News. Yeah, your ratings have been in the toilet. Not just on the Reid Report, but the entirety of the network. We'll see if this new chairman, this new president, this new executive can turn things around. Alex Wagner, who has hosted weeknights at 9 p.m., is also losing her anchor chair after Rachel Maddow returned to 5 days a week at the network to cover the first 100 days of the Trump administration. They think Rachel Maddow is going to bring it back? Covering Donald Trump? Nah, Rachel ain't gonna bring you back. You're gonna have to continue to cut her salary. They cut it from 30 million to 25 million. Now they're bringing her back to work every day of the week. Oh no, it's going to get worse, Rachel. I'm sorry. Story continues. Maddow is set to return to anchoring just 1 day a week on Mondays later this year, after they see whether it works for her to bring back the network after 5 days a week. They promised her, hey, we'll give you your 1 day a week back, but we need you to come into the office every day of the week, as Donald Trump has implemented, as Doge has implemented on federal workers. We need you to come in every day of the week. Put in the work. Prove yourself. And maybe, just maybe, later on this year, we'll give you your 1 day a week back. We'll see how it works out. You might end up on the unemployment line with Joy Reid. In December, Nielsen Media Research revealed that Reid had lost almost half her viewers since the election of Donald Trump, with MSNBC seeing a whopping 53% drop in primetime viewership following the November 5th result, before rebounding somewhat in the 4 weeks following the presidential inauguration. She was feeding a narrative to people who wanted to eat it up. But after the election came, where you gonna go? You were wrong. You were incorrect. You were inaccurate. Donald Trump is now the president. You promised those people, and they were tapped into your narrative. You promised them that it was going to be different. You promised them that they were thinking in the right direction. And they had to hold that L along with you. After the election, they tuned out because they knew you were wrong. You knew you were wrong, but you wanted to cling to that narrative. So this is what you get. Story continues. That same month, MSNBC reportedly offered some of its most prominent stars, including Reid as well as Stephanie Ruhle, major pay cuts if they wanted to remain in their anchor chairs. One of Reid's replacements in the 7 p.m. slot, Sanders Townsend, was previously a spokesperson for Kamala Harris before being hired by MSNBC in 2022. Cutler, a former senior executive at CNN, has made it clear that MSNBC faces unique challenges as it looks to work with a Trump White House and prepares to be spun off into a new publicly traded company, along with other NBCU cable networks. Well, at least you got a CEO in there who is thinking on her feet, who is forward thinking, who is looking to work with the Trump administration and say, hey, what we've been doing, this is going to get us axed under this Trump administration. This is going to get us whacked under this Trump administration. Maybe we can find a way to work with them in order to survive, in order to stay afloat, in order to keep our shareholders happy. I like the CEO. Based on what I'm reading here, seems like she's looking in the right direction, saying, hey, can I make peace? After all this chaos, after all this confusion, after all this foolishness that Joy Reid has kept up over the years with the Trump administration, can I find a way to work with them such that they don't sick the FCC on us and cancel our whole situation? Smart CEO you got there. She might be the right person for the job. Let's see how this works, because firing Joy Reid goes a long way towards proving that you are willing to do what you need to do to take corrective action to turn this network around. Story continues. MSNBC and some of its fellow cable networks are being spun out by Comcast, forcing MSNBC to build up some of its own reporting and news gathering infrastructure. As part of these changes, Cutler is expected to announce a new MSNBC bureau in Washington, D.C. in the coming months, where the company is hiring for a new Washington bureau chief, as well as new heads of talent, news gathering, and content strategy. Wow. This is an upheaval. This is an overhaul. They are changing the entire network strategy under this new president, Cutler. Our jobs are hard on a normal day, and these are not normal times, Cutler told MSNBC employees on the first day her role was announced by Mark Lazarus, the NBCU executive who is leading the new spinoff. It's going to be hard, but it's also going to be exciting and interesting and a real important time to do what all of us do. Among the other shakeups expected, weekend host and former White House press secretary Jen Psaki will anchor one of the primetime hours during the week. A source familiar with the changes told The Post. Y'all, they got some inside plugs that are leaking this information. This is good stuff. And it's funny that Jen Psaki would go from press secretary at the White House and just float right on over there to MSNBC, get her a job, get her a show, get her a whole new situation. Ain't that interesting? Cutler, in her previous role as MSNBC's senior vice president of content strategy, spearheaded both Townsend and Psaki when they joined the network 3 years ago. Oh, she got her favorites. She got people that she want to plug. She got people that she want to use. And obviously, Joy Reid wasn't one of them. And there you have it, y'all. Seems like the executives at NBC have come to their senses and said, hey, Mr. President, best buddy, first buddy, Elon Musk, we don't want no smoke over here. We don't want you running through our closets and pulling our skeletons out. We don't want you to stick the FCC on us. We understand the winds of change in the political environment, and we are going to take corrective action. That might include canceling the Blackity Blacks. That might include making Rachel Maddow come back to work 5 days a week. Yo, Rachel Maddow was making $30 million a year to work 1 day a week. Now, let me not be too hyperbolic, because as a content creator, I understand to make a 1 hour show takes hours of work. Takes staffers putting in hours of work. So I'm not trying to diminish what she has done, but what she has done has been to poison the well of the political climate in this country. And NBC, the parent company of MSNBC, has come to the realization that this is not good for business. Yo, this is a vulnerability. We gonna get this Blackity Black up out of here with all that mess she be talking on her show. She gonna get us sued. She gonna get us attacked. She gonna get us penalized by the Trump administration. We don't want that smoke. 1 month in, y'all, and they are beginning to recognize that there's a new sheriff in town. There's a new president sitting behind the Resolute desk. Things are different. And that difference includes firing Joy Reid. Y'all think it was justified? Y'all think it's good for America? What do y'all think about the firing of Joy Reid? She is no longer employed, and I'm sure she has some options. There might be a few people who follow her on platforms like this one, Them Folks platform. There might be some people who follow her. Maybe she should do an independent show. Maybe she can land somewhere else on another network. I don't know what her options are. You let me know what you think about this circumstance. Joy Reid has been canceled by MSNBC. I can't say that I'm not happy about it, because you and your narrative have poisoned the well of the community purposely and intentionally, steering our folks astray. I'm glad to have you out the way. I'm glad that they turn your microphone down. And we're going to see where you end up, where you land after all of this. Y'all, let me know what you think about this in the comments. I'd love to know your thoughts. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video so we can get more people involved in the conversation, y'all. And like I always say, always remember and never forget, without the gospel, it's just chops. Until next time, peace.